Hey guys, in this week's episode of Make It with Calvin, I'm going to show you how I quickly paint and weather my models. This is obviously not going to be the world's most detailed way of doing things, but if you need to get some models looking somewhat aged pretty quick, this is the way to go. So let's dive into it. So the first step for this is, whenever I can, I like to stick my models down onto a piece of masking tape. I have just taped over the ends, and preferably for this, you're actually going to want some of that old-fashioned super duper sticky stuff. If all you've got is the lower stick stuff like this 3M Sharp Lines multi-surface, it will work fine. Just bear in mind for things like these Railcars that have a very tiny contact patch, they might not stick the best, but you'll probably be more than fine. Now, for these cars in particular, I've used some of this Rust-Oleum camouflage paint. This is the Flat Earth Brown. The only reason why I chose brown over black is I figured these rail cars have been around outside for a while. They've gotten beaten by the sun. They've got some dust on them. And I figured the brown looks a little better as a slightly lighter surface than just, say, a flat black. Now, obviously, you could use other colors as a base starting point. I just figured it wasn't uncommon for these to have sat outside for a while, you know, kind of taken on a patina. Maybe they were painted black from the factory, things like that. So that's kind of the thought process for this, but I really, really like the look of it. Now, when it comes to actually weathering it, I'm going to be using some of these weathering powders that I picked up years ago over at Micromark. I've got some desert sand right here. I have some rusty brown and some rusty red. Now, there's nothing stopping me from grabbing some grungy gray, gritty yellow, muddy red, grimy black. You get the idea. The point is, I'm trying to stick to a bare minimum of things here, and I might dig into those in a minute, but you can also use chalks, you can use pastels you've kind of scraped down. I personally like using purpose-built weathering powders because these actually have a pressure-sensitive adhesive built into them. So as long as you're not handling the models constantly, there is no need to go over them with any kind of dull coat or clear coat, which has the unintended side effect of pretty much dulling down whatever finishing you've done on there, which can be kind of frustrating. So let's get started putting a little bit of powder on these things. Okay, so the first thing that I think I'm going to use actually is going to be the rusty red. And common sense definitely applies here. Anywhere like the inside of these V-skips is going to collect water. Where you collect water, you get rust. So being that I'm planning for the moment on keeping these without a load, definitely going to come along with my rusty red and my rusty brown and put a little bit of powder in there. We're not going to go insane. These are not, you know, cars that are at the end of their lifespan. Whoops. So let me put a little bit in there. And if it's not perfect initially, not the end of the world. Obviously, there's no hard and fast rule. I can probably see there's a little bit of powder in there. So what you do with this is you just pretty much take your brush and just carefully work it in there so the adhesive has time to bond. And I definitely want to kind of also get the ends, if you will, and like I predicted, the tape is letting go. So there you go. It's not perfect, but we'll keep with it for the sake of the video. Just stick that down. So now you can see automatically this guy's got rust, this guy doesn't. So let me just jump and do the other two really quick. All right, now we got all three of those with some of our rusty brown in there. Now, I could come along with a little bit of the rusty red, but honestly, I think I'm gonna save that for other areas. I quite like the look of this. Definitely you'll notice that they have varying amounts of weathering, and that's kind of the beauty of this. It's very abstract, for lack of a better term, which I think actually makes it look even more realistic. So now that we have that done, I'm going to come along and just apply a little bit of rust to the tops of the frames here, and especially not too much around, you could say, the pivot area, because you would assume there's probably some kind of grease there. If you really wanted to, you could come along with like an oily black or something like that, but we're not going for that level of detail here. But let me go ahead and apply a little bit also down by the running gear, because you're gonna have some splashing there, and then we'll come on back and discuss what we're gonna do with the other colors. Oh yeah, that's looking really good. So as before, just kind of did varying amounts of weathering on there. Obviously flat surfaces are gonna get stuff. And then also down there by the running gear, you figure that's gonna get a lot of splashing. It's gonna get a lot more moisture. So definitely put a little more down there. Now I ended up accidentally using the rusty red for that, which isn't a bad thing. That was a genuine mistake on my part, but I think it really kind of helps to break it up visually. Now, the last thing that I have is the desert sand, which is just kind of a light yellowish color. I'm not going to use too much of this, but I do think same logic applies. It definitely would make more sense down by the running gear just to help lighten things up, and also just go over the frame a little bit as well with it. And there we have it. Those are the finished rail cars. Now, because of all the dust, the tape pretty much has decided on most of the cars that, whoops, it doesn't want to get with the game. But that is how I quickly go about taking my rail cars and giving them a quick weathering job. And well, yeah, that's really all there is to it. So, hope you guys found this useful. Links to the items will be down below. You don't have to use the very specific brand of weathering powders that I'm using, although, like I said, there's other options out there, but I'm very happy with what I came up with using just those three colors. So if you're really on a budget, or you just don't want to bust out a bunch of stuff, that's how you can do it. Now, as for the rail cars, as of the time of filming, I am hoping to have these in the Etsy shop shortly, but I make no promises. But I will leave a pinned comment down below on where you can find them and all that good stuff. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you here next time on Make It with Calvin.